Hi, everybody. We've got a few people who've joined us straight away. Well done for those being dead on the dot at 11 o'clock. Hopefully, you can all see me and hear me. We'll give a few minutes for people to get logged in. Oh, look at that. Look at all those people who are well trained in online meetings. Thumbs up straight away. Thanks for those who have put their thumbs up. We'll give it just a few minutes. I think we've got about 50 or so registered for today. Is that right, Phil? 50?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got 20 people online at the moment, so we'll just get it to a good number. I know what it's like when you run from meeting to meeting and things can overrun. I can see a good few names coming up. Good to see you all. Good morning. If you don't know me, my name's Scott McKinven from Entitled To. I'm going to just be I'm hosting, so I'm making sure it all works okay today. You should be here for finding out more about what's happening on the expansion of free school meals, and one of our expert-led webinars. Phil, you're expert today, aren't you, Phil? Say hello to everybody.
Today I am an expert. Hello, everyone. Hello. Thanks very much for coming.
Good to see you. Just give it another bit more. We've got 23 so far, so we'll give it until 2 or 3 minutes past, and we kick off from there. So Phil's going to be presenting today. I'm going to be hosting, and if you have any questions, there's a number of ways you can do it. You can put them in the Q&A session, you can put them in the chat session, or you can raise your hand, and I'll keep an eye about what's going on and what's happening, and try and interrupt Phil at an appropriate point to stop. So just ask as we go along, because with these things, you can be on one slide and you want to ask something there and then. So please do so, and I'll try and interrupt Phil, and we'll get all of our questions answered as we go along. Now, there is a normal thing everyone asks: will I get the slides? Everyone asks, will I get a recording? And the answer is yes to both of them. They will get sent out afterwards. And we, even with our client webinars, we send out to those who have registered as well. So some people get tied up into other things, we know. So we will make sure that you get them. It is recorded, so you'll also get a recording of it as well. Phil, we have 23 of us at the moment. So I'm suggesting, because I think you've got quite a lot to go through, I think, why don't you say hello to everybody and share your slides and start off with everyone. Start off, what are you going to teach us today? What are we going to learn about?
You're going to learn about the expansion of free school meals. Thanks very much for coming, everyone. Yeah, and just to be clear, so it's going to be recorded. In fact, the recording is starting now, and everything will get sent out. And just to repeat, do interrupt me or raise a hand so you can ask a question, or Q&A or chat to if you've got any questions as we go along. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen and present these slides to you. Okay, so hopefully now I've got a red outline on my screen. You can see, there we are. Free school
Yeah.
meals, what's changing and the taking opportunity. Great. Okay, so the main thing is that eligibility for free school meals is going to be extended from next term. Okay, and as I'll come on to, registration for next term should already have started. The 1st of June was when the Department for Education opened its new registration system. So even though this is happening in the autumn, it's a present thing now for local authorities and schools to get on with. Okay, so the big change is that from the autumn, anyone on universal credit, any family on universal credit with school-aged children qualifies for universal credit. And at the same time, the existing transitional protection system will be scrapped. And I'll explain in a moment what that's going to be. So the government estimates that because of this extension from the current threshold of every people earning under £7,400 a year to everyone on UC, an extra 500,000 children will get free school meals. Okay, so that's what's changing. What's not changing? Okay, so there's still universal free school meals, and that is for years 0, 1 and 2 in most of England, and for primary school children in London. There's no change to those rules in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. This extension is only in England, and I'll come in a moment, just show you what those cut-off thresholds are in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. For people underneath 7,400, so the existing scheme, and that's going to be called the targeted free school meal scheme, all the entitlements linked to free school meals are going to stay as they are now. So it's only the actual meals that go to everyone on UC. It remains the case that families with no recourse to public funds still have access to free school meals, and this isn't affecting the amount of funding per school meal. So just to sort of go over some of those again. So these are the rules for universal free school meals without any means test. So yeah, in England it's reception years 1 and 2 for primary school children in London. In Scotland, it's all primary school children in primary 1 to 5. In the last 2 years, 6 and 7, it's if you're on Scottish child payment. Okay, so that is linked to universal credit as well. If you qualify for universal credit, you qualify for Scottish child payment. In Wales, it's all primary school children, same as London. And in Northern Ireland, there isn't any universal free school meal provision. It's all means tested. And I think I'll show you on the next slide where that means test falls in the different countries. Yeah, so in Wales, it's the same as in England for the targeted scheme. It's 7,400 a year that you need to earn under to qualify for the benefits based. But benefits based is only for secondary school pupils, obviously, in Wales, because in all primary it's free. In Scotland, it's £995 a month is the cut-off. And Scotland uprates that amount every year. Okay, so that's just gone up in April 26 to that new level of 995 per month. And in Northern Ireland, it's much higher. It's 15,390 per year earnings. But remember, they don't have any universal provision. Okay, and yeah, in Scotland, the last 2 years of primary school are linked to receive the Scottish child payment rather than that threshold. Okay, and then these other entitlements which are currently linked to free school meals, they are going to keep this 7,400 threshold. Okay, so this, in effect, we're going to end up with 2 schemes: this targeted scheme, which keeps the 7,400 earnings threshold, and an expanded free school meal scheme. So up until the 7,400 earnings threshold, you qualify as well as the free school meals for school travel assistance and also holiday provision. So free school meals, as it suggests in the title, are at school rather than during the holidays. And you can also qualify for things like school clothing grants. They are actually decided by local authorities. So councils could change these rules. In practice, they are mostly linked to that £7,400 earnings threshold, which exists for the current free school meal scheme. So we expect them actually to mostly stay the same. Okay, what is changing is this system of transitional protection. So at the moment, the system works that if you go on to free school meals, so you are on universal credit and your earnings are underneath 7,400, once you qualify, you stay on free school meals for the whole of your time in that phase of education. So if your child is 8 and you become unemployed and you claim universal credit and your earnings are underneath 7,400. You're able to claim free school meals. Even if you then go back into work subsequently and earn more than 7,400, your child will stay eligible for free school meals for the rest of that phase of education, so primary school in that case. So the idea is at the moment, once you get into the system in a school, you stay in the system and you don't move out of it. So that's transition protection. That actually came to an end in Wales in January 24, but it's going to end at the end of this term in England, and it's going to be replaced by an annual eligibility check, which is going to be the new system. Okay, but it's quite important to realise that because of transitional protection, meaning that once you get in to the free school meal system, you stay there for that phase of primary school. The effect of that has been that it's actually increased free school meal eligibility quite a lot, and I'm going to show that on this next graph. Okay,
Bill,
so
just before you go on to that graph, just a point that Matthew Kendall's noted in the Q&A. It's not really a question; it's just a point. So, although the DfE say apply from the 1st of June, many local authorities suppliers checking systems are not live and may not be until July. Therefore, if you apply now, you may technically be eligible, but a non-updated system might give a negative response as it's not ready. So they've told schools to wait until we are ready. So just an insight there from Matthew.
That's extremely useful, Matthew. I didn't know that. Yeah, the Department for Education are keen to get people into the system before next term. But no, I'm not surprised to hear that the systems haven't caught up. I can see that. I assume PE is Philip Exley, and you've got your hand
Phil
up.
Exley, yeah, he's got his hand up. Phil, do you want to unmute yourself, or see if I can unmute you? Let's, here you go.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, Phil. Hi, Scott. Just very quick point. Phil, on that transitional protection, presumably you still got to be entitled to some universal credit, even if your earnings change. Is that right? Or
No, it's not. It's once you're in, you're in.
Once you're in, you're in. That sounds extremely generous.
Well, it's going actually. It was. Yeah. It was caused by the fact that originally originally it was something much more like until until this system was introduced in 2018, which was when universal credit was still at the very beginning of rollout. It was actually all universal credit recipients got free school meals. Yeah. And in 2018 they got rid of that and reintroduced a threshold of 7,400, but at the same time they introduced this transitional protection system. But yeah, it's surprising how generous it was.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Is there any other questions? Well, I'm just wondering if there's any other hands up at all. No, Phil, I don't think there is. Carry on. I shall.
But yeah, thanks very much for asking questions. Do carry on. I'm sure there'll be more. Okay. So that's behind the increase in free school meals eligibility. The system of transition protection and that big uptick since 2018. And just to show you, obviously, that the rates of eligibility for free school meals vary a great deal between different local authorities depending on the demographic. So much higher in Manchester and Islington than Kingston upon Thames, because there are more poor families living in Manchester and Islington than there are in Kingston upon Thames. But yeah, really big variations between local authorities. Okay, I'm going to move on to the guidance, which came out from the Department for Education on May the 8th, I think, and there's a web link to it there for people who want to see exactly what the DfE has said, but I will now provide a summary, hopefully, of the main points on it. Okay. Oh, I should say, so alongside that, there's a whole bunch of documents with the guidance, which are also worth looking at. In particular, there's a model registration form and a self-employment declaration form. But I'm going to come on and show you some of those extra documents later on. Okay, so look, I've said this before, but the guidance makes clear that really we've got two free school meal schemes going on now. We've got targeted free school meals, and that's for people who are underneath that current threshold of 7,400, and they still get all the other entitlements which are linked to it. And then you've got expanded free school meals, okay, and those people who are above the 7,400 threshold, but are in receipt of UC, have got a positive universal credit award, and schools will need to check which group they got into. Okay, so you'll need to distinguish between such and such is eligible for targeted free school meals and such is eligible for expanded free school meals. So it is kind of like two schemes rather than one. And this is the other really key bit. So Philip pointed out that the previous system of transition protection was very generous, as in once you were in the system, you were in for the whole of that school phase. That's been replaced with an annual eligibility check. So what the Department for Education are after is for people to actually register for free school meals before October, when the school census is, for the beginning of October. But the key point is once you have registered, even if there is a change of circumstance during the year, your earnings go up or whatever it might be, once you have proven your eligibility for free school meals, you will be eligible for the whole of that school year. Okay, and that will also apply if people become eligible during the year. So if someone, say, loses their job, goes on to claim universal credit, they will then be able to claim free school meals from whatever point of the year that is, and they will then continue to be able to claim for the rest of the year. So there's only ever going to be one check, even if circumstances change during the year. So again, just to make the contrast, that's a relatively generous system. So if people get a job during the year, they don't lose eligibility, but it's considerably less generous than the previous transition protection system. Okay, the eligibility checking system, and this is where I think it was it Matthew was saying that actually people aren't ready, or the actual systems aren't ready. The information in the guidance, which is what I'm using here, is that the new eligibility checking service will be ready from the 1st of June. So the existing eligibility checking service, it says in the guidance, covers both childcare and free school meals, but the new one only covers free school meals. And yeah, I did actually go on to the I think it's called it's the London one, the London LFGL eligibility checker yesterday, and I did notice that was using the old system, I thought, but I think it will vary with suppliers, but the aim was that it would start from the start of this month. Okay, and then there's specific data that schools will need to put in for each applicant, and then that eligibility system will say they're either eligible for targeted free school meals or expanded free school meals.
And Phil, let me just interrupt you there. Amy's posted a question. How does the expanded free school meals affect the pupil premiums for schools, or is this unaffected?
I think it might be the next slide or two. It's
there we go. Perfect timing.
So the pupil premium will remain on the targeted group, not the expanded group. Let me just go on and check and see if I have got that next, unless there's any other questions. But yeah, it's the targeted group, not the expanded group for the pupil premium. I think it's in a couple of slides time now. A little bit more about the earnings threshold. Okay, so for the expanded group, it's that you've got a positive universal credit award in your last assessment period, but for the targeted group, there's this 7,400 cutoff, and the system for defining earnings of 7,400 a year remains the same as now, which is the basic check is to take that 7,400 divided by 12. If your earnings are below £617 in your last assessment period, then you're in the targeted group. But for people with variable earnings, there's an averaging system. So if earnings in this month were above 617, but they were below 617 in the last month or the last 2 months, then you can average over 2 months or 3 months. And those written there are the 2-month thresholds and the 3 month thresholds. Okay, that's the same as the current averaging system. For qualifying for the expanded group, it's just about having a positive universal credit award. I'll just cover briefly self-employment, where actually the system is going to be a fair bit more complicated. So as well as proving that they got universal credit, they're actually asking self-employed people to submit a company registration document or their self-assessment tax return. It's not entirely clear to me why they're asking for this extra documentation, but that's what's in the guidance about it. And they also need to evidence their earnings in the form of receipts and expenses, or the monthly accounts provided on your form. So I think what's going on here is that the eligibility checking system does have a data feed from HMRC of pay as you earn. So that's what's driving, when you're employed, that's what drives your universal credit assessment period earnings, and that will also drive the eligibility checking system. But it seems to me that they can't have a feed from the universal credit system for self-employed people, telling people what their net profits are. So rather than being able to pull from the eligibility checking system the level of earnings for self-employed people, they're asking people to declare it and then evidence it. Okay, so it's quite a lot of more work there for self-employed people. Okay, so that's just a picture of the model self-employment form that they put up on that they've got with the guidance on the DFE website. Okay, so a little bit more to do for self-employed people. Okay, and there's also a checklist for schools that is part of the guidance. So they want you to read the guidance, obviously, prepare for the eligibility checking system, so application forms, and they're trying to get people to check eligibility between the 1st of June and the 1st of October, because at the beginning of October, it was on the 2nd of October last year, they have an annual school census. And the really important thing for local authorities is that funding will depend on numbers who are in the free school meal system before the census at the beginning of October. They also talk there about a checklist about communicating with parents and carers, and actually we've done something on that which I'll show you in just a moment to help provide a leaflet to get the message out to parents and carers. And then they also talk about actual delivery readiness, so it might mean that the actual demand for free school meals goes up a bit, so you need to check that catering providers. Okay, so there's their model registration form for getting people into the system, and then those are the details which will go into the eligibility checking system, which will then return whether that individual is entitled to targeted free school meals or expanded free school meals. Okay, this slide is on to repeat about the way it will be funded for local authorities. So there's going to be a special free school meals expansion grant for 26-27, but really that's only going to have 7 months. That's only going to run until the end of this financial year at the end of March. And it will be calculated on the difference in the free school meals eligibility at the moment in the October 25 census and the new eligibility which is shown in the census which will be coming up at the start of this October. So in order to get funded for these extra free school meals places, people need to be registered by the very end of September in time for that census, which is, like I said, on It was on the 2nd of October last year. So hence the emphasis on getting people registered as soon as possible over the summer or at the start of term. So they will then make another adjustment once they've given you this free school meals expansion grant. There will also be an adjustment in your universal free school meals grant, because there'll be some crossover between the two. And the extra numbers they're expecting there, it's actually slightly different to that 500,000 number. So they're expecting, that's because that's the difference to 23-24. So the 500,000 number is relative to 25-26. And as we saw from that graph, because of transition protection, entitlement to free school meals has been going up. But they're expecting that sort of overall boost in numbers on free school meals. And there's my pupil premium funding. So the pupil premium will remain based on that, on the targeted free school meals group, and it had a similar idea as the transitional protection, which was that it had, for the last 6 years, if you got into the group, you stayed in the group. Now free school meals, the targeted free school meals, will be the basis for pupil premium funding. So again, that's going to be on the people who are registered for free school meals by the census at the beginning of October. Okay. We've got to the end of the guidance bit. I'll just pause and check if there's any questions on that.
Phil, I haven't seen any other questions come in, but Amy's put a thumbs up from that pupil premium, so thank you for that slide there. Just pause, have a drink. Philip, you've got your hand up again. Fire away, Philip.
Yeah, sorry, this might be a bit of a stupid question. I do apologise. So, if I'm a universal credit claimant, the fact that there's 2 schemes is kind of irrelevant, isn't it? As long as the fact there's a targeted and expanded schemes is really about government accounting, isn't it? Is that right?
Basically, the only difference is those linked entitlements. Okay, so if you're on targeted, it's like it is now, and if there are additional schemes over the summer, you'd qualify for those under targeted, but not under expanded. And similarly, things like you can get help with school travel. Again, you've got to be targeted to get the school travel. And in general, school clothing grants, they are set by local authorities, but in general, they're going to keep with that targeted free school meals eligible.
Oh, that's helpful, Phil. So if you're in the targeted group, there are a few other little add-ons there, yeah?
Yeah, those linked entitlements are the targeted. So yeah, the expanded group, it is meals at school only. None of those extra bits and bobs.
Excellent. That's great. Very clear. Thanks, Phil.
Great question, Philip. And Phil, I can't see any others, so please carry on.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to just talk a bit now about the take-up opportunity here. Okay. So obviously you've got people on universal credit above 7,400 who are now going to qualify for free school meals. And I've just put a little slide here on the value of free school meals. So in terms of central funding, it's now £2.66 per meal per day, which over 190-day school year means it's a fraction over £500 per child is the value of it. In London, it's actually funded a little bit higher, so it's 570 per child. But the actual cost charged to parents does vary a little bit around the country. Okay, but I'm going to use that £505 per child per year as my kind of value of free school meals number. So what that's going to do is it's going to mean that for anyone who is underneath these numbers here, so these are giving you the thresholds, they're now going to qualify for universal credit, and they qualify for universal credit up to those amounts, and that means they will also get free school meals. So it's even if you only get a very small amount of universal credit, you will now qualify for free school meals. And the reason I put this on is particularly to show that there's something else going on, which we were talked about a couple of months ago, which is the abolition of the 2-child limit. So from this April, for families with 3 or more children, let's say you've got no housing costs. Well, it was fixed at the maximum earnings that you could qualify for universal credit, assuming that there weren't any disabilities in the household or any other extra needs, was about £40,000 a year if you didn't have any housing costs. Obviously, if you pay rent, that amount is higher. So if you pay £200 a week rent, that's a net earnings of 64,000 or £200 a week rent. But the key point is it didn't go up with the number of children. But obviously, since April, if you've got more children, 3 or more children, you've got higher needs. The universal credit calculation now reflects that. So obviously that means since April, there's been some families with 3 or more children who have become eligible for universal credit because their earnings were above 40,000 before, assuming they didn't have any housing costs and they didn't qualify. But now, because of the 2-child cap has been taken away, their extra needs are taken into account, and so you can qualify for higher earnings. Okay, so those are those cut-off points taking into account the abolition of the 2-child limit. And what you're doing with free school meals is you're putting on like a bonus that you get if you get any kind of amount of universal credit. So I'm just illustrating the position here for a family with 3 children, and they're on 50,000 a year. And I've assumed that they've got no additional costs here. There's no a rent or anything. So last year, for this April, they didn't qualify at all. Then in April, because of the abolition of the 2-child limit, they became entitled to something like to about £10 a week of universal credit. And then come September, the value of that claim will in effect increase by about £1,500, because as well as the actual universal credit, they'll get free school meals for their 3 children worth a little bit over £500 a year each. So it really means that benefit from claiming universal credit, so that's a fairly small claim, £10 per week. It might be that before the free school meals change, the household weren't sure whether it was worth the effort of filling in the form and the claimant commitment and everything that goes along with it. But the introduction of free school meals means that the value of a universal credit claim is much higher. And just to illustrate it, a similar idea. So this is a couple where they're both earning 26,000. So they've got a slightly higher net earnings, 52,000 as their gross. Again, they've still got 3 children. So when the 2-child limit was abolished this April, they became entitled to universal credit, but just for a tiny little bit, an amount which is £85 a year. And they might well think it's not worth claiming for that small amount. They're only going to get a bit under £10 a month from that claim, and they might think it's not worthwhile doing that. But because of the extension of free school meals, they now get free school meals as well, even if they only claimed a small amount. And again, because they've got three children, that's £1,500 a month in effect in the form of free school meals. So even those very small universal credit claims become worthwhile, which is why it's a take-up opportunity. So in terms of when you're doing activity, in terms of registering people, there's kind of 3 groups. There's the group who are the targeted group, where the key message is you now need to register annually, and there's an eligibility check. I'll pause in one moment. There's the expanded group who are currently on universal credit, who previously weren't eligible for free school meals and are now eligible for free school meals, they need to register. And then there's that extra group who are not currently getting universal credit, but need to check whether they could get universal credit. Because if they put in a claim, they will then also be able to claim free school meals. I will pause there. Was it Colette?
Yeah, it's Colette. I was just going to interrupt you there. Colette, let me unmute you and you can ask your question. There you go. Let me
I actually hit an error. I actually don't have a question. Sorry.
Oh,
well, it's good to talk to you anyway.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like a golden hello to claiming universal credit, even if you've got quite a small entitlement. If you've got school-age children, even with a small entitlement, you will qualify for free school meals, which makes the value of the claim that much bigger. Okay, so in terms of who to think about, in terms of the additional take-up opportunity, obviously, if you've got, you need to have school-age children for the free school meals to come into play. So that's outside of London kids in over year 3. And we're talking about households who are working here, obviously. Those are the newly entitled ones. And we know that households who are not working are much more likely to claim universal credit than people who are in work. And as I'm going to show you on this next slide, it's particularly households where there are 2 earners who will often believe that they don't qualify for universal credit, but actually they do have an underlying claim that they don't know about. And that's particularly the case if they've got housing costs. So if you're in the private rented sector, because of those housing costs being included in the universal credit calculations, you can still qualify for universal credit even with reasonably high earnings, because that calculation takes into account your costs. So as well as the costs of the children, takes into account the cost of rent. And of course, if you've got any additional costs like childcare costs, that means you're more likely to qualify. And as I said before, there's an existing case for looking at families with 3 or more children who, because of the abolition of the 2-child limit, are more likely to qualify for universal credit than they were before April. Okay, I'm just going to show you now some research done on take up of benefits. And as you can see, the line at the top is 1 adult with children, where the take up rates from this academic research show that take up is close to 90%. So it's not perfect, but the contrast, so that's the yellow line at the top, is the 1 adult with children. The contrast is with the line at the bottom in a sort of orangey brown it's the blue line you want to look at. 2 adults with children. Take up rates are a lot lower there. Okay, so hence the focus on 2 adult households, and particularly 2 adult households where they may believe that their earnings mean that they're not entitled, but it's worth them checking. So that's what the research says in terms of focusing on 2 adult households. Right. In terms of encouraging this awareness about take up, trying to include a message on your communications about checking, I think, is important. So I've created a leaflet which schools can use to promote these changes. So what I'm going to do now, and I hope the technology will work, so I'm just going to show you how this site works. So it's a free resource, anyone can use it, and it's at that URL there, freeschoolmeals.entitled2.co.uk. So there is a generic leaflet, which I can show you if this will launch. Hopefully it will come up. There it is, there's the site, and hopefully you'll all be able to see it too. So there's a generic free school meals leaflet, and if I click on that, I think it'll enlarge. They'll get a generic leaflet, and that's trying to give these main messages for these 3 groups. Okay, so if your child currently gets free school meals, eligibility is going to be checked every year. Okay, so you need to talk to the school before October to claim. If you receive universal credit but haven't claimed free school meals, then your child is now eligible. And then it's got some information about where you might claim. And then it's got that really important message about if you're not on universal credit, about checking whether you're entitled. Okay, so I'm just going to show you something else that you can do on this site if it's useful. You can create a leaflet for your own individual local either for your own local authority or for your individual school. So let me just rid of that one and go back to here. So if I now go on to the for schools part of this site, what you can do is you can put in your name of your school. I'm going to put in my kids' primary school, which was called Alan Edwards. It's pulling from the DFE website all the details about that school. So it's already got their website address and their phone line, but you can customize it. So if you don't have a school office, you might change that, say, pick up a paper copy from reception. And then you can publish the leaflet. Just view that leaflet. And you've got a leaflet for your school to give out relevant information for that school. And that information obviously is going to include whereabouts they can claim, which is going to vary from school to school. So those same main messages to sign up before the autumn starts. If you're currently getting free school meals, you need to register again. If you're on universal credit but not claiming free school meals, again, register. And there's that message about checking if you're not getting universal credit. As you can see, it's changed it to pick up a paper copy from reception, and it's got the school's website. So it's a free resource for anyone on this call, or indeed anyone else, to create a leaflet to promote these free school meals changes, and in particular to promote that last group, that third group, to check whether they qualify for universal credit.
And Phil, I just want to add, what a great free resource that Entitled to have created there. Really good to see that, and obviously we'll put the links in to it when we send it around. I think we should send it to other clients who probably aren't on this call as well, because it's really great to have done that. So brilliant. Oh no, I did see a hand up and the hand disappeared. I think it was meant to be a thumbs up. There we go. So there's no questions, I don't think, coming through, but I just want to add my well done to Entitled to. It's great to see something like this being produced.
Very much. Okay, yeah, no, the hand's gone down. So let me continue on to what we've done on the calculator. Yeah, we've got about 17 more minutes, so I think we're being timed. That's all. Okay, so on the calculator, we've added panels to the results page, and this is live now on all your calculators. So if you're in the targeted free school meals group, a panel appears on the results page telling them that they're eligible for free school meals, and with that important message that from this summer, eligibility is going to be checked every year. So you need to contact the school before the autumn term starts. Okay, and it also mentions that you might be able to get help with school clothing and transport. Then for the expanded group, it's just about saying, look, you qualify now. But it says from September, obviously at the moment. Once we get into next year, we'll be changing that. But at the moment, it's you qualify from September, and that you need to contact your school to make that claim. Okay, and I think that all follows on from everything that I've said before. I'm going to go into a slightly different topic now, just for this end bit of the presentation. Okay, so look, we've also put on an extra panel, and we haven't actually set this live yet. So you will find on your sites that targeted free school meals panel and the expanded free school meals panel. What we haven't set live, but I've just mocked up so I can show you, but we're intending to set it live fairly soon, is an extra panel for people who are nearly eligible. Okay, so these are people who go through the benefit calculator and discover that they've got zero universal credit. So they've come in to do a check, perhaps because they've read the leaflet and thought, I'll just check if I qualify. And they discover that they don't quite qualify. What we do is we put up this message to let them know what earnings they would qualify. Okay, because they're just above. So I've put in someone here. I think they had, I think it was a loan. It was only one child. So I think they had earnings of 3,000 a month. But because they only had one child, their cut-off was lower. So the cut-off in this case was net earnings of 2,122 per month. Okay, so we tell people what the net earnings would be to qualify for universal credit. And then the important bit here is we say at the bottom, your net earnings can be affected by payments of tax and national insurance and pension contributions. Okay, and then I'm going to show you where it links off to in a moment, which is our help page on pension contributions and its effect on universal credit entitlement. Now, I'm just going to jump off our calculator now onto how this was influenced. And it really comes out of something that was put out about 3 weeks ago by the Pensions Commission. So about 20 odd years ago, 22 odd years ago, we had the first Pensions Commission, and that was the thing which invented auto enrolment, the scheme where if you are an employee, unless you opt out, you pay in 5% of your pay. And as there is now a second Pensions Commission going on to look at the auto enrolment system, and they put out a report about 3 weeks ago, and it included a bit of analysis about incentives in terms of tax relief. And obviously, as you'll know, if you're a higher earner, you get tax relief at your marginal tax rate. So you get it 40% if you're a higher rate taxpayer, but 20% if you're a basic rate taxpayer. But if you're on universal credit, it pointed out that because pension contributions reduce your net earnings, so in effect, pension contributions have 100% disregard against them, and that's different to legacy benefits where the disregard was 50%. Under universal credit, it's 100%, so a complete disregard. It means that if you pay into a pension, your take-home pay falls, and because your take-home pay falls, your universal credit goes up. Okay, so they give an example of someone who opts in at 10,000 into automatic enrolment. The way automatic enrolment works is you pay 5% of your earnings above the lower earnings limit, and the lower earning limit is a little bit over £6,000. So they're not paying in 5% of 10,000, they're paying in 5% of 3,900. So a 1.9% fall in their take-home pay, but because of that, their universal credit will go up. I should say that's because they're above their work allowance. Okay, so they say while their income would fall by £85, because universal credit goes up 1.4 and their take-home pay goes down by 1.9, they'd be saving over £300 into a pension. And just to show you how they illustrate that, I don't know if it helps a great deal, it's just showing that their net earnings go down to reflect their pension contribution, but their universal credit goes up by about £100 a year. This is done. So the fall in their net income is that £85. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that under free school meals, if you're on that edge, that actually gets souped up because you're going to qualify for free school meals as well. Okay, so there is the case that for people who are just above that threshold for qualifying for universal credit, that paying into a pension can become really worthwhile because you're also going to qualify for the free school meals as well. So I just took that example from the Pensions Commission. I've created a new example of a dual earner couple with 3 children in this case, and they're not paying rent, and just showed the effect of going from 5% pension contributions, 5% of qualifying earnings, where they wouldn't qualify for universal credit, they're just above the threshold, to increasing those to 10% of qualifying earnings, which would mean that they just became below the threshold. They'd only get universal credit about £16.50 a month in this example. It will vary, of course, from case to case, depending on their needs, whether they've got additional costs of disability or childcare, or indeed on the age of their children, because children born after April 2017, there's no family element. But in this case, as you can see, as well as that £16 a month for universal credit, they're also going to get a little bit over £1,500 a year's worth of free school meals, and will end up roughly the same in terms of cash now, or if I'm including free school meals as cash, the effective value of free school meals. But of course, they'll be saving more for retirement, which was the point of the Pensions Commission covering this. Okay, so I just wanted to make the point about pension contributions. I'm just going to move on in the last 10 minutes to, I'll just show you our help page. So when you click on that button, it goes to our help page, which explains all of this, how pension contributions affect earnings. That's going to be too small for you to read, but that pension contribution help page is live on all your sites at the moment. And it includes that illustrative example at the end. Right, just going to say one small extra thing because it's going to be relevant to this take-up story as well. So we want you to encourage people to check whether they're entitled to universal credit, but at the same time, it's possible that some people, as well as finding out that they qualify for universal credit, will also be encouraged to claim child benefit, because the statistics on child benefit take-up make quite worrying reading. They keep going down, and they've gone down from basically universal, almost universal take-up, so take-up 96% in 2011, to now is down to 87%. But what's really driving that is kids who have been born since 2013, when the high income child benefit charge came into operation. So that's the charge, which means that if people earn more than £60,000 a year, and that's as an individual rather than as a couple, child benefit starts being clawed back. So it's clawed back between 60,000 and 80,000 a year. That's meant that lots of people are just not registering, and possibly that might also be influenced by other factors, like there's no longer bounty packs in hospitals when babies are born, and there might also be a mistaken belief that the 2-child limit applies to child benefit. So I did do a blog on this, which is available on our website, but the really headline number is that the biggest effect of that charge has been to reduce take-up. So in effect, the charge has raised about £5 billion directly since 2013, but in terms of reduced child benefit payments, it's almost double that. So I'm just going to go on to my last slide, which illustrates what's going on and the reasons for it. So this is showing child benefit take-up by cohort. That kind of flat purpley blue line at the top is kids born in May 2011. And you can see that at age 0, even in their first year, take-up was above 95%. It stayed really high. This stops at 16, by the way, because eligibility changes at 16 to 19, but you've got to remain in education. But to go back to the graph, before the introduction of the child benefit charge, people were claiming straight away, and then that eligibility was remaining between 95 and 100% right up until age 16. If I contrast that now with May 25, which is that yellow graph, line right at the bottom, people are not signing up at the beginning. So between 0 and 1, even get to age 1, you've still only got something like 75% of eligible people taking up their entitlement. Okay, and then that we expect from the previous experience is going to continue. So if people don't take it up at the beginning, they'll continue to not take it up. So the concern is that while overall take up is 89% now, it'll be heading down, and that there's an increasing problem of people, just as well as not claiming their means tested benefits entitlement, there's a problem of people not taking up child benefit as well. Okay.
So Phil, take a breath, have a drink, because you've shared so much information there in such a short space of time. It's been absolutely brilliant in what you've shared with us today. I know I've learned so much about free school meals and what's happening. So thank you for that, and being really concise with the information as well, and offering free resources to everybody. I was just going to see if there was any questions from anybody. There's nothing in the chat or the Q&A. Did I see someone's hand go up and then disappear?
I saw look, Catherine.
Catherine's hand disappeared. I think maybe she was going to put a thumbs up there. But look, our good friend on this call today, Mr. Philip Exley, go again. What have you got? What's the question for us?
Okay, so it might be a bit nerdy, this one, but you know the first graph that you showed, Phil, of the take up with the four coloured lines?
Oh yeah, the last graph. Yeah.
No, the graph before that.
Oh, the graph. Yeah.
I think it take up of free school meals. I can't remember now.
No, it wasn't. It was actually universal credit and legacy benefits. Okay, so yeah, it's done by the University of Essex, and it's using the Family Resources Survey, but it's not looking at specific benefits. It's looking at universal credit / legacy benefits, because they joined the two together.
Okay, so those 4 lines on that graph, they were all pretty steady, apart from the blue one, which I think was couples, either no children or 2 children, where there was a negative spike in 2018. Quite a significant.
You and me are both nerdy there, because I noticed the same drop.
Do you know? Have you got any explanation for that? Just out of interest.
I'm afraid I don't have an explanation.
You're disappointing me, Phil.
I probably wouldn't read too much into it, but it could have been. No, I don't know what it is.
No, that's fine. Thank you anyway. Thank you. And by the way, really interesting today. I appreciate this session. Great.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Philip, and thanks for interactive. It's great when we get questions in there. As I say, I spotted that. You obviously like me. I know you like me. We like graphs and things, and why things have come up. Let me just check. I can see something. Does that just come in the Q&A here? So yeah, Anne has just put a question. If schools encourage parents to apply for free school meals through the school, do the school take over applying for the pupil premium?
I may not know the answer to this, but I'm going to say that I think that they help people to apply, but then the data is fed into the local authority, and then the local authority then does it collectively on behalf of all schools. I believe that's how it works. If there's someone from the local authority here, they can correct me.
I don't think I could see any correction jumping up. Just having a look to see. No. And Julie's just noted on the chat. Really helpful, Phil. Thank you. So looking at the time, Phil, I can't see any more questions. I can't see any more hands up. Shall we give people 2 minutes back in their calendar?
Thanks.
Wonderful. So thanks, Philip. Thanks, everyone. Phil, thanks for what you've been doing today. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. There's a few hand claps, and as I say, we'll get the recording out to everyone, but I hope you found it of interest today. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. It's great. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone. Bye-bye.